Talking back tonight, let's take a look at some news stories you may or may not have come across over the last few days and the mainstream media may or may not be reporting to you with Talking Back the Night regular Nathan Bray. Hello, mate.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Christian.
There's plenty happening this week, as always. We'll start off with this one, Nathan. HSBC compares the global economy to the Titanic.
That's right. It's like an ocean liner without lifeboats. This is the HSBC's dire warning for the global economy. Now, what they're saying is the world economy is in a serious danger of falling into another recession. If you look at the GDP figures that came out of the US the other night, they had to revise down a previous month of fraction. We would technically be in a recession in the US, and if they get the cold, we get the Ebola, right? So, and if this does happen, governments have few tools. Well, this is what they're saying. The next recession, the governments don't have very many economic tools left at their disposal to actually combat it. Now, this is the official dire warning from HSBC chief economist Stephen King, who described the situation, as I mentioned, as like being on an ocean liner without lifeboats. So, in effect, the world economy is sailing across this ocean without any lifeboats in case of an emergency. This is what he's writing in his new report, The World Economy's Titanic Problem. So, to put it simply, the fact is the Western banking system, notably the mega banks, well, they're already bankrupt, technically, is what they're getting at. So they're bankrupt based on the simple fact that as a whole, Western countries have been importing from the west of the world, or mainly Asia, for the past 30 years using their credit card, and let's face it, that credit card has now maxed out. But don't panic, Christian, because Tony Abbott is on board economic Titanic, and he can see the iceberg dead ahead, and he has a plan. Tony's going to cut food rations to the third and fourth class passengers and give a tax-deductible blender to all the barmen. But Bill Shorten's there as well, and he's going to allow the gay passengers to drown with the others in the same ocean. Now, I spoke to Bruce Jenner, and he hasn't decided quite what to wear. Now, this all comes on the back of the Australian government finally recognising that Sydney and some of Melbourne are in what we call a property bubble. And they're admitting it now, and we all know what happens to these bubbles. So, in effect, there's a financial and social tsunami on its way. And what worries me is Tony Abbott is flexing his muscles in his budgie smugglers as the chief lifeguard. And I think that's going to be very little consolation when it hits.
Nathan, this is a very intriguing one, and it could be one of the most startling revelations of all time. The Pope to reveal truth about alien contact this week. I'm very curious. Very curious.
I like talking about aliens, Christian. I'm quite comfortable with it. You know what I mean? So, but this is an interesting one and a little bit curly at the same time. So, according to this public interest lawyer, Daniel Sheehan, now he's saying Pope Francis is on the verge of making one of the most startling revelations of all time. So he's at a conference today, and Sheehan has revealed that the Pope will be denouncing the capitalist system, which he's kind of been doing for a little while now, in order to prepare us for full alien disclosure. Now, in his announcement, that is the Pope, he's predicted to expose the truth about the existence of other intelligent life forms, some of which have been in contact with Earthlings, he's going to say, for many, many years. Now, some are saying thousands of years. So the Pope, it is said, is keen for the revelation to be made in a way that will avoid mass chaos. So he's basically, how he's going to do that, I'm not really sure. That could be anyone's guess. But Sheehan went on to describe how Pope Francis wants to avoid the kind of chaos that engulfed the Catholic Church during the time of Galileo, when it was revealed Earth is not, in fact, the center of the universe. So what they're getting at is it's preparing us for the next shift in sort of human consciousness. And now I completely agree with that. In fact, I don't really have a major issue if aliens decided to come to Earth or we found out the truth that they'd been here before. But in other related story, they're saying that if aliens did come to Earth, the Pope said he'd be happy to baptize them. Apparently he has been quoted as saying that before. See, look, I agree this story may be very hopeful, but it does come, on the back of many experts and influential people suggesting that full alien disclosure is imminent. For example, did you know, Christian, that Obama's former pilot, who flew him around the world, many times, admits to an alien encounter and says that virtually all aviators believe in UFOs. This Andrew Danzinger, not to be confused with former Pope Joseph Ratzinger, right? This veteran pilot with 28 years of experience in the cockpit has also admitted he had his own brush with the unexplained. Okay, so all of these people are suggesting they've seen all this before and it's quite new to them. He saw a white disc that then changed into a giant red ball and glowed for 30 seconds. Now, this is actually Obama's former pilot. And on top of that, very recently, a former defence minister of Canada has accused world leaders, get this, of concealing the presence of aliens. So this is Paul Hellyer, right? He was the Canadian defence minister, okay, throughout the 60s. And he's now urging world powers to release what he believes is hidden data on UFOs.
Wow.
Now, he's saying much of the media aren't going to touch it. Now, this is a legitimate guy, and a lot of legitimate people are now coming out and just casually saying, you know what, aliens exist.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. Question I want to put out there is, are we being prepared for the full disclosure, like we're starting to be prepared for the economic tsunami?
Finally, Nathan, questions still being asked about Tony Abbott's British citizenship. We know he was born in England, came out here to Australia with his parents in the 60s, and maybe it's the same old desperados or opportunists asking whether or not Tony Abbott has indeed revoked his British citizenship and therefore suitable to be Prime Minister of Australia.
Is it just a big distraction is one of the thoughts that run through my mind for the fact that things aren't going that well. But the question is a legitimate one, I think, where they're saying that he is a dual citizenship with Britain, and then there's all these other bits where he came back from he came to Australia from Britain only to get he got a Oxford scholarship so he could go back, and when he got there he said, this is my true home and all this sort of thing. So the question is, under this S44 of the Australian Constitution, he has to come out, I think, and say, I actually denounced, or I actually got rid of being a British citizen completely, and he's never done that.
Scan a document and put it on Facebook?
Like Obama did, when he showed us the original birth certificate. If I was Abbott and I'd been hiding this my entire political life, which you think would be crazy with the amount of money put in to back them, right? Why would an Australian restore British imperial honours and then he goes and knights the Queen's husband, right, who's already a prince, on Australia Day? Like, if he was dodgy, do you think he would really go that far? He knights a prince and calls him the Australian knight, or Christian. This is proof that we don't live in a democracy and they don't really care about following the rules. That, to me, is the most likely explanation.
Nathan, did Julia Gillard's political opponents or detractors go after her in the same way? Because she was born in Wales, came out here as a kid. The story is very similar to Abbott's.
To a degree, but then we really attacked her, didn't we, about her giving a house to, a boyfriend, or the loan. You remember that situation?
Yeah, union funds to put a renovation on her house.
That's right. So it's sort of like we attacked her in just a slightly different way. They all may be true, but they never stick.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that other member who, for the prostitutes on his credit card, completely lied about it, got found out, never went to jail.
See, no one cared about his citizenship. In fact, we were hoping that he had British citizenship that he hadn't revoked.
They were just checking the passports of the prostitutes, I believe.
Nathan Bray, thanks. We'll catch up again in a week's time.
Thanks, Christian. Can't wait.